with our press briefings today, and the first topic will be medical mobilization, and we'll speak to Olga Bogomolets, who's a doctor of Ukraine, who's an advisor to Ukraine's president.
Central, good morning, and we start our series with right now with Olga Bogomolets, the honored doctor of Ukraine and the advisor to the president of Ukraine. With Ms. Bogomolets will speak on the subject of a nationwide military and medical mobilization in Ukraine. Прошу, пані Ольго.
Good afternoon. Good morning. The topic of the briefing is my work as an advisor to the president of Ukraine and an advisor on humanitarian issues, and what was done during the first week of my work, and one of the most important directions in our work that includes military and medical trainings, military and medical mobilization for all institutions, medical institutions, for doctors, representatives of civil groups, Ministry of Interior, Ministry and Police, were ready in case of a terrorist act to be prepared, or any unexpected massive violations or violence at the place where they live or work. That's why there is a working group which develops scenarios of events, of possible events, and there will be a calendar developed how these trainings of military medical mobilization will be held in every district center in our country. We'll invite representatives from civic groups and volunteers, doctors, teachers, students, representatives of territorial communities, just for people to know clearly how to respond to possible danger, to possible hazards. It would be better if it doesn't happen, but we all should be ready for that. Also, in addition to that work which was done during the last week, we did a lot for coordination of treatment and rehabilitation of wounded. But there will be a press conference about that at 11 o'clock, at 11:30 tomorrow in Uniform, where we'll discuss issues of rehabilitation, of neuro-rehabilitation, psychosomatic, and also how to help to the wounded we have at present. Also, I would like to provide information about one more big project, national project we have. That is the project to help families of those military men who died and who lost the men in the family. So we developed a portal among the partners of this project, which is called People Help People. TV channel 1+1, Raiffeisen Bankoval. And on that portal there will be video story of every family that lost the man who earns money, and those who died on Maidan, those who died during ATO. Raiffeisen Bank opens direct accounts, credit card accounts, without any interest for anyone from any country of the world to come to that portal and choose a family they want to help directly. If there are people who are working on this portal, and we have volunteers, NGOs, IT organizations, and also invited public agencies, and I invite all who would like to help, who would like to cooperate, to join this project. And because we can listen to recommendations and we are flexible at the moment. Because of cooperation with volunteers and NGOs, the portal was added as an indicator of how much money families have. Also, penalties families get if that money is not used for the purpose and or for something else. We're trying to to prove that we can have a transparent and just resource, and nobody will doubt in it. Because many people don't trust funds and foundations. I also don't trust them, but that's why it's not a fund. It will be a direct assistance without any interest rate. So that's why the bank is a volunteer. They provide their service, and also IT companies are partners and volunteers in this project. And in every region of Ukraine, there will be volunteers together with a social services, and they will provide information after a personal agreement of every family, and they will provide information to that portal. In addition to just focused assistance, and in addition to assistance from abroad, that will allow to reduce falsifications. Because in internet you can see many credit card accounts with a request to help to orphans, to IDPs, and among our volunteers, there are many cases when we're trying to find that person, and but behind that credit card account there is no one. That cheating, that's that effort to make profit on the problem. Brings to the fact that people distrust. So that's why anyone who would like to get involved, who would like to work with families, who would like to work with this portal, we are absolutely open. And your request is sent to email info at bogomolets.com. And I'm ready for your questions. Please. Any question? Here's the question. Recently, in the medical community, and this issue was raised during Maidan, there is an idea in the medical doctors community, intellectual community, to introduce in the framework of medical universities and institutes a special course of military medical education or training. Thank you for your question. And before I give you an answer, I would like to, on behalf of myself, on behalf of, I would like to welcome Radio Liberty with your jubilee, with your day of foundation, because Radio Liberty, for me, is that voice on old German radio my father had. And that's the voice I heard. I was growing on. And Radio Liberty is my first prize of Washington Museum for presentation on Ukrainian Festival of Authors, Son Obrich, 1991. Radio Liberty is one of not many, among a few information sources in Ukraine that always supported the democracy and justice, and never were bribed, never took bribes. And that's the source that defended Alexander's hospitals when doctors were beaten, when trees were cut. That's the media which protected Castle Radomysl when raiders wanted to get it. And that media which during Maidan events, even in 1991, and during my first Maidan, it was always told the truth about events in Ukraine. I wish you and all of us a democracy and fairness and freedom of speech, sincere, which is not bribed, which is not bought. And this is something you have, and I will greet you in Mr. Arsenal tonight. And I will do it honestly and sincerely, because we speak a lot about illustration, our authorities, but media in Ukraine, what evil they do when they are bought by political structures, when they're trying to clash Ukrainians between themselves. That's a catastrophe, and I support illustration of media, and then media which brings to splitting of the country, they also should be brought to responsibility. Coming back to military medical training, there was a decision after the first meeting which I held, and it was very good. We made a decision to return military medical training to all institutes, and in medical colleges. Also, the course they should give a course for civilians and coordination center to train on the base of medical military academy. A quick course for retraining and additional training for civic doctors, and we want in every hospital of Ukraine, several doctors who would have that military field training and who would be skilled in field surgery. During Maidan, doctors volunteers did a lot of mistakes, committed a lot of mistakes. Why? Because civil medicine is different from a military field surgery, just completely different. And if doctors on Maidan were trying to sew wounds as soon as possible, then in field military field surgery they don't do that, and that allows to do prophylaxis of secondary diseases. And so the process has started. The decision was made, and the military medical academy received that request, and now we will return that to Ukrainian schools, colleges, institutions, and universities, and every hospital will be prepared to react in case of massive casualties. One more question. As to these trainings you are talking about, I'm interested if these people, teachers, trainers, students, will it be enforced on everyone, or will it be a voluntary course? And could those people be sent to ATO area? Is it planned? Thank you. If you want me to answer, listen to me, not to your phone, not to your phone. Otherwise, it makes no sense to respond to your question. This mobilization has nothing to do with sending people to ATO. It's about, during my young years, it was called civil defense. When all civilians in Kiev, for example, they should clearly understand in Zhytomyr or anywhere, in every town or in every city, if there is an explosion at the train station, at the factory, if there are massive casualties, they must know what to do, because when doctors start calling and asking where to run to the military commission office or to a hospital, we lose time. Doctors should know where to run. Students must know where there are stretches, and civil defense and the SAF, Ministry of Emergency. They have a clear scenario. Who should assess the size of a catastrophe? How many casualties are there? Are there enough of capabilities in a hospital to provide enough of medical treatment, or should doctors be sent from other hospitals? Are there people who cannot be treated in this hospital and must be transported to a different hospital? This scenario of reaction, it's just an understanding what to do if there is a massive attack against people, and it has nothing to do with ATO mobilization. And of course, all doctors will be involved, will be a part of this of the profit. It's not voluntary. It's our duty. Those who work in the Ministry of Emergency and the volunteers, and all the rest depends on all the rest will be volunteers. So we need to develop a clear plan of reaction, what must be done under such situation. So this plan, it will allow us also to study potential resource, who is in which city or town, and also capabilities and also where we need more assistance.
Olga, I have a question regarding the plan of this Ukrainian military medical mobilization. Let's put it this way, just to avoid a misunderstanding. We are not talking about mobilization. We are, from the point of view, this kind of one-day mobilization for the training purposes. Let's call it military medical training all over Ukraine. But we are talking about the medical colleges, institutions, whatever else. So how long is going to last? Well, there is no end to that. From the point of view of the medical colleges or education establishments, maybe there will be question how they're going to organize such trainings in those regions of Ukraine which are not controlled by Ukraine. No, we are not going to provide those trainings in those regions. And today, the preliminary stage for providing such training is creating of the unique single medical register. Because today the Ministry of Health of Ukraine in Kiev, for example, is subordinating, reporting to that is, let's say, 83 medical colleges. In Ukraine, it's about 65 to 70% those subordinated to Ministry of Health. There are about 14 departments like the railway, the emergency ministry, the Ministry of Defense, etc., which have their own medical establishments, and plus those which are reporting to the regional administration. All those establishments, institutions, speaking about those, we are trying to introduce the single register, and I am going to be responsible for that, of those medical college establishments which are going to take part in this training, especially talking about the higher level education. Medical colleges, they are going to be involved. They are already involved in the process of treatment of those wounded. The first aid, then the specialized medical aid, then further transportation of the wounded. We didn't have such coordination before. We have a strange situation here because the medical institutions of different, let's say, which are subordinated to different ministries, they cannot coordinate their actions, and they could not exchange the information about the wounded. Today we have a special center represented all the departments of the law enforcement bodies, and who are already coordinated between themselves the pathway for the wounded. And so today there is no doubt among the doctors or the medical officers that spillage in this or another disease, or let's say, where they're going to deliver the wounded or the wounded persons who actually were injured or wounded in the anti-terrorist operation territory. And we have a special, let's say, medical sanitation establishment for those, for the veterans of war. So far, the medical officers do not have this status. This is very painful. This is kind of the Achilles heel, because we do not know what they are. And the same is about the fighters in the front. They have no status. But again, today there is no doubt where to deliver, to move. The fighters, either the voluntary fighters or the law enforcement soldiers, etc. Are going to involve the voluntary organizations in this training? Because very often we had representatives of the World Congress of Ukrainians, World Ukrainian Congress, who provide the training for the prompt of first aid to be provided to the fighters. Are going to involve representatives of such organizations. By all means, we are absolutely open to anyone. And during all the meetings and conferences which take place, we always invite those volunteers who are specialized in this or another, let's say, area. My task, one of my tasks, was to a maximum extent coordinate the efforts of different representatives with the sabotage provided by this existing mechanism of state. And that's why we organize in the local levels special training for those people who indeed are indifferent, and they take pains and they are really they want to improve the situation in this country. And we had yesterday a kind of conference regarding the psychosomatic orientation. There were those medical officers who work in the front line and some other medical experts, and we are going to have a separate conference dedicated to the issues of psychosomatic rehabilitation, because this is much more difficult and complex than just somatic rehabilitation. For example, among those who need prosthetics today, we are talking about 23 legs and 9 arms. And those who need the psychosomatic rehabilitation, we are talking about dozens of thousands of people. Are there any questions? If none, thank you very much, Olga, for coming here, and we hope to see you next week with new information regarding holding such training. Thank you very much. I'll try to be here every week, once a week, and provide you with very interesting and useful information for volunteers and for the mass media, because the way you are going to translate this information to the general public at large, very much depends what would be the situation or perception of the people here in this country. I, for one, try to do everything possible today in order to provide our fighters with some elementary things, starting the selection of the blood group of blood required for the transfusion, especially for the fighters, for the young boys who are going to be, let's say, sent to this ATU territory. So please, if you know some facts, negative facts, so please inform myself personally. And I give you provide you the email address, Bogomolets monkey gmail.com. And no excuses when they said that we could send 3,000 and we send only 300. This is no way. This doesn't work. This is something which had to be suggested for the consideration by the military court. And again, we have to provide a psychological testing, because psychological testing is specifically something which can help us to prevent some of the consequences, negative consequences, which are irreparable. Thank you very much for your attention. I thank you, Olga.